Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful weekend. Hope it's going well. We have some crazy things that have just been announced about 10 to 15 minutes ago regarding a trade deal that has been officially confirmed between the U.S. and China. We'll be talking about the details, and it'll be exciting to see how futures open tomorrow night before market open on Monday. On top of that, Palantir with earnings happening on Monday. A lot of crazy things that'll be coming up this next week here. Palantir also officially closing above $200 on Friday's close. We'll be talking about that and some interesting things that are happening with BMNR, which we've been talking about recently. Ethereum at a very interesting price point, holding some strong support. So things could get really juicy here by the end of the year. So new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. We're trying to hit 30,000, and I'm talking a lot more in X. So if you want more up-to-date critical details that you don't want to wait for these daily videos to pop out, follow me on X down below. It's completely free. Pop it up on the screen here. Palantir closes at $200.47. And we were talking about this during this wedge, kind of this consolidation zone here when Palantir was just hanging out between 170 and 187, basically saying, hey, when Palantir has that next big catalyst, when it has the macroeconomic environment that is favorable, then that's where you could get the possible breakout and testing the 200. That's exactly what's happening right now as we speak. Of course, with that partnership with NVDA that we had mentioned or saw a few days ago. Palantir here in the after hours on Friday climbed up even more with some momentum at 201.58. So congratulations, considering how long we've been talking about Palantir since the mid-10s. Crazy to see here now a $200 stock, and this company is like the top 22nd now in the US. So it'll probably be in the top 15 or top 10 within the next 5 to 10 years. So crazy to see here Palantir in terms of really establishing dominance in the market. With that, you have earnings here that's going to be coming out on Monday after the bell post-market on the 3rd. Revenues are expected to be about 1.09 billion, correlated with an earnings per share normalized here at 17 cents. One thing I like about EPS revisions over the last 90 days, we're continuing to see a lot of bullishness here. 20 bullish revisions and 0 bearish revisions. One of the big things in terms of uncertainty or just kind of that hedge with Palantir, though, is that it is priced for perfection. As we know, Palantir is expected to always have historical earnings. They have typically been able to fulfill that basically price for perfection expectation. They have been able to do that for multiple quarters. When they don't, that's where I think you're going to see possible, selling pressure and things like that. But nonetheless, I think Palantir is going to come out with great earnings again. That's just my personal prediction, and I'm just using that on previous earnings. At some point, maybe they won't be as, extraordinary, but with the recent price action and even with the partnership now with the biggest AI hardware chip company, NVIDIA, the signs are just pointing only in one direction for me personally. So we'll see what happens with that. In terms of the trade deal, we have the official announcement of a deal on economic and trade relations with China. Awesome. These are the Chinese actions right here. Suspending new rare earth export controls, issuing general licenses for exports of rare earths, taking significant measures to end flow of fentanyl to the U.S. Okay, that's good. Suspend all retaliatory tariffs since March 4th. Suspend all non-tariff retaliatory measures since then. Purchasing at least 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans. The soybean war, it's over. We don't need the soybeans to create volatility or bring a lot of uncertainty for us. It's great to see here. I've never been so excited about a soybean announcement. In terms of the U.S. actions right here, lowering tariffs on China by 10 percentage points and extending the expiration of certain tariff exclusions until November 2026. This comes right here from the White House that came out literally like 30 minutes ago. This is a huge deal. This is really aligning with kind of the whole Q4. You're going to have quantitative tightening that is coming to an end. Rate cuts still continue to be expected, that are expected to be continuing here. And now you have this deal that is solidified. that's where the market, I think, is going to hopefully find its next leg up, even though we're at kind of these all-time high levels, which sounds insane. The market right here in the S&P 500 closing at 6840, doing quite relatively well here. Of course, you've seen some big dips within the Mag 7, such as Meta's, but you've also seen some big gainers in the Mag 7, such as Amazon. I mean, Amazon was just recently beat down from the whole AWS shutdown, was just trading at like 212. And so where Amazon trades at right now, and even up 9 at 244 here, up about 10% on Friday, doing a good job to bring resiliency in the S&P 500. At 6840 here, I think this is a great close. The market's doing quite well, and I think bulls are still in total control. Bears are still continuing to fumble the bag, especially here with AI adoption that's picking up. I am going to continue to maintain a bullish sentiment into the year end at least. You even have Netflix that's announcing here a 10-for-1 stock split. I mean, this was long overdue. This is just going to help with Netflix here to be able to accumulate shares at a cheaper price, better for the options market. I mean, who can trade options when this thing is at $1,100 or, whatever? It's just crazy here. So, October had a lot of choppiness in it. I think we were expecting more green, but we still did have a green finish. We saw the S&P 500 climb 2.3%, but it did experience some of the largest one-day losses in the stock market. I mean, we had that crazy Friday and that big sell-off there. So, in terms of choppiness and frothiness that was kind of taken out of the market, we saw individual names even falling about 20 to 30%, talking about things like, Nebius, CoreWeave, some of these AI, more speculative kind of data center names now catching a bid, and we've seen some strong reversals. So a lot of these individual names in the market, more AI-driven type of speculative names, had a lot of frothiness that was taken out. So it's like, now what's next? In terms of, this is where we're going to go into more of the speculative type of digital assets and DATs and digital asset treasuries. Ethereum right now is holding a strong level of support at this 3,800. If you guys have been following Tom Lee and BMNR, Tom Lee's really expecting a much larger price for Ethereum here by the year end and even into 2026. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But nonetheless, what we're seeing in terms of the numbers don't lie. Looking at the numbers right here, a lot of people are talking about a possible supply shock that's incoming. Reason being is because we're seeing Ethereum exchange reserves that are kind of plummeting right here while the price is maintaining at this kind of established floor. Ethereum is holding a nice floor about at this $3,800 zone. That's where it's at right now. And of course, we see some resistance at about that 4,200. We've seen that being tested, recently at that 4,200 area. So if it breaks through there, that's where I think you're possibly going to be catching a bid or momentum on Ethereum. One of the big things with BMNR right here, and another interesting thing that we see here, on-chain volume of stablecoins has really started to increase and has astronomically increased just in October here, showing you here on-chain activity is continuing to excel. Thank you, Chris, here for sharing this really nice kind of informative type of graph that allows us to see here that even Bitmine is continuing to buy the dip. Over 29 million worth of Ethereum has been bought, and we know that they are continuing to purchase Ethereum at a rapid pace, trying to hit their home mission of 5% of the circulating supply, calling that the alchemy of 5%. And then, BMNR hasn't even announced staking yet. Considering here it's trading at $46, the actual individual stock here is at an interesting support level, and it's going to be important for a reversal to be triggered here. At this 48, kind of 47, it's right below the support area. If a reversal is not triggered here, that's where you could see further downward pressure to a really strong support level of 40s. Or if there's a nice reversal right here, which, a lot of confidence could be coming back into the market, especially with this trade deal now that's kind of being announced as we speak. That's where you can see the rebidding, possibly more consolidation, possibly back into the 50s here, retesting of short-term resistance at about that 54, 55 area. So we'll be keeping that on our radar, but nonetheless, in terms of the year end, I'm still maintaining a bullish perspective on BMNR. It has been dropping a lot recently. I think that's been a lot of shakeouts in the markets. In terms of, the Mag 7s, in terms of the S&P 500, yes, it's actually been quite resilient, but a lot of individual names have actually been decently red. And I think there's been a lot of shaking out in the market, trying to accumulate some liquidity. Market makers trying to accumulate some liquidity, gearing up for this year-end push that everybody's expecting. with all the stars that are starting to align, we haven't seen the move yet, but I think the move is going to happen relatively quick, especially with Ethereum here. I think the move is going to be relatively quick. And we've seen that historically with crypto, some of the biggest moves in a year can happen in just a few days. So don't want to be sitting on the sidelines definitely during that time period. But nonetheleless, looking at some of the other stocks in the market, Friday was a decently good day. You're seeing a little bit of a bid that's been caught on, CoreWeave here finishing in the green, things that we've been talking about like with Nebius right here finishing in the green back at 130. So we saw these down at 95 here. CoreWeave came down here at 117. This is where some frothiness got taken out of the market. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about it tomorrow, especially with futures that open. I'm going to be very excited, especially with this trade deal that's been announced. So peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.